Welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at an Amon build that was built by King of streamer, Destiny guy, Borderlands guy, fun guy. It's the one I respect very much. Look at that, for nearly 400,000 damage. He built this build for Amon before I even tried Amon out, and I don't particularly understand Amon as a character. All of his skills and all that are just so confusing to me. I haven't really looked into him yet, but I am going to be now. And Gafalion put together this build for Amon, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. It's fun, it's got insane interactions, it's interesting, it does a lot of damage, so I think it's very much worth looking into. So, and all that damage from the space lasers was solely from 1 amp, so 50% gun damage from the amp on the shield. There are other things we can throw in to make this stronger, some things I don't even know if they're actually working or not, because I haven't particularly used this setup very much, but we'll go through it. Once everything's popped, you're going to see an insane amount of damage. So we pop our class action, we pop our rep kit, we pop down the space laser, pow, and you're going to see insane amounts of damage, up to 2 million. Then we can throw out a melee and put it up to 6 million. It's just insane. We can spray out our forge wave as well and get our axes out. So just a pretty goddamn powerful build, and a lot of fun as well, in my opinion. So at the moment I have 2 Oscar mics on, one with 16,712 damage every 0.2 seconds on the space laser, and the other one slightly less damage, 14,872. You can go and farm the best rolls for these possible. I just got these quickly for the video. I would suggest maybe getting 2, just in case your first space laser misses a boss somewhere. Now, your general damage, ad clearing damage, I would go with like a 7th Sense and a hot slugger. Any kind of ad clearing weapon that you like. You can use assault rifles because you won't really be using the bullets on the Oscar mic. However, if you might just want to have different types of weapons set up. So the rep kit we have has amp damage, increased damage of the next shot by 200%. And on top of that, the shield as well. So 20% of those shields get taken for a 50% gun damage. These 2 amps persist through the entirety of the space laser, because the space laser down there is 1 single bullet. So it's not like the first tick is amped and then the rest isn't. It is all amped completely. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Even just on its own, 400,000 damage is bonkers just for 1 little single boost of amp. And there's also another shield we can use here, which I'll talk about in a second, and that is the What's for Dinner. So next up we have the Atomic Slippy Grenade. So it deals melee damage on detonation. Now a lot of your builds built around melee damage, so you're going to be doing a lot of damage with this grenade. I also have nuke on it, so damage radius and cooldown are all increased, and you can see that just this on its own does insane amounts of damage. Like, it's bouncing away from the enemy and it's still doing like 175, 200,000 damage. So, you know, if you don't finish off an enemy, there's a little bit of health, you could just throw out your Slippy Grenade and do just an amazing amount of damage. Look at that. So cool. Such a cool build. Next up, we have Fiery Elementalist. Now, I'm going to be completely honest here. I don't know if this works. The only reason I put this on was for the melee damage and skill damage, so that you're running. So it's going to count towards your general melee, which is your grenade, your action class melee, etc. And your skill damage as well also comes into the melee, I believe. But, you know, it's just an extra boost. So wherever an affinity skill gains a stack, all unlocked affinity skills also gain a stack. For each stack of affinity from all affinity skills, Amon gains increased movement speed. So you just get a bit of extra movement speed. This, not that important for me, but the melee damage, skill damage works perfectly, so that's why I chose this. However, there's probably a better class mod. Like I said, I don't really truly understand Amon right now. I haven't really looked into him, but you know, if you can think of something better, please feel free to use it. As for the shield, we have amp on it. I just used any random shield with amp on it because it had Real Big Fist built into it. I didn't have to attach the firmware. There is also the What's for Dinner shield, which is the other shield I was talking about. I got this one with amp as well, set up for my Vex, unfortunately, so it's got Deadeye on it, but this will work also with this build. But any amp is absolutely fine. And then for the enhancement, I just haven't even bothered looking into it. Assault rifle damage is going to be good for the space laser and stuff, or the gun in general, but this is just totally up to you. The only reason I use this was because it had Real Big Fist on it, and as you can see, it still works. So the enhancement is going to just be directly about how you want to use a weapon or a build or a setup. So even here, so like bullet fabricator, on kill, guns with daedalus license parts, have a 40% chance to refill your magazines. This isn't going to help anyone or anything because the space laser won't be refilled. So you need to find something that's going to work for you across the board. If you have another weapon with another licensed part on that you want to use their specific enhancement for ad clearing, do that. For me, this had real big fist on it, so I threw it on. So this isn't even a complete full build because, like I said, I don't truly understand Amon, but this build in general will just all work together. So let's look at the firmware. So we have on here real big fist. So melee damage is increased by 15%. Melee damage is increased by an additional 25%. A melee kills trigger a Nova explosion for 200% melee damage. If you want ad clearing, 3 out of 3 real big fist will be really good for you. However, we also have action fist. So melee damage is increased by 15%. Action skill damage is increased by 10%. And on melee kill, action skill damage is increased by 25% for 8 seconds. So this basically is your ad clearing one big boom, kill everything around you. This one is more for kill an enemy with a melee, run to the next one melee, run to the next one melee, run to the next one melee. So both of them are good ad clearing. It just depends on what you want specifically. I just had real big fist because naturally all the things that I put on already had real big fist on. So definitely worth looking into both of these, either or 3 and 2 on the other. You can either have 2 and 2 and then throw something else on another firmware. But for me, this just works absolutely perfectly. So let's look at specializations. And as you can see, I got hacked. But in general, I'm trying to keep on the level of where I would be if I was leveling up and playing properly. So we have runner perk, which needs 20 points in. This is going to get you to bare arms, which is melee damage now benefits from increases to gun damage. So if you get an enhancement with loads of gun damage on it, you will be able to have increased melee damage. Go further on down to Groundbreaker. So non-melee attack damage and slam damage are stored. So your space laser will get stored. Melee attacks and slam deal bonus kinetic melee damage based on stored damage and consumes it. So you're just going to do more damage essentially. Then we go into Daredevil. And we go down to now with caffeine. So reduce action skill cooldown whenever a rep kit is activated. This is really good if you have 3 charges on a rep kit. As you can see, mine was just solely for the amp damage. And then we can go down to a honed mind. Action skills gain a chance to critically hit enemies and also gain increased action skill critical hit damage. So if your melee pops someone, you're gonna absolutely destroy them. I also just threw 20 points into Survivor just to get maximum health and maximum shield. So yeah, that's just what worked for me. But let's get into the actual skill tree. So first and foremost, that class mod offers us 4 points in Burning Rage, so kill skill. Killing an enemy with incendiary damage from guns or status effects will grant a stack of Flame Affinity for a duration. Flame Affinity stacks grants increased reload speed and action skill cooldown rate. So if you use any weapon that's flame, fire, and kill people with it that isn't your space laser, you're going to get a whole bunch of buffs. Same with the shock over here, so exactly the same any shock weapon. However, I believe this ties into our perks that you can get with the axes, where one's shock, one's ice, one's flame, and then you got the shock big forge wave. We're going to start off over here in the 11 points in the green tree. So we go down to cast iron, so gains increased forge skill cooldown rate and gun handling, so that's great. We got 4 points over here in destruction engine, gains increased forge skill damage and detonation damage. We throw 1 point over here for tempered pyre, so we get a forge drone skill. Whenever Amon activates his forge skill, he spawns an axe forge drone that attacks nearby enemies for a duration, dealing incendiary melee damage. So that is where we're hoping we will get the flame damage to get the flame affinity. Then we have twin tempers. Tempered pyre now spawns an additional axe forge drone that deals cryo damage. So both of these will be working together. However, the majority of the build is going to come from melee damage and stuff from the red tree. So we start up here with what burns within. So Amon gains increased incendiary damage, which is what we need, what we want. We have gut punch. Melee damage and ordnance damage have a chance to apply weakness to enemies for a duration. This is why we hit people with the melee before we do the big forge wave, because we might put weakness onto them. Plus your grenade as well, when you're throwing it out, you can just apply weakness to any enemies that survive its blast. Then we go over here to Tritanium Knuckles. I always say titanium, but it's Tritanium Knuckles. Amon gains increased melee damage and skill damage. Obviously, melee damage, we need it. We then have 1 point in Forged in Steel, so Amon becomes immune to all damage for a brief duration whenever he activates Forge Skill, because you're going to be running in and punching people in the face. This is important just to get a small brief duration of immunity. We have 3 points in the best defense. Amon gains an overshield when he deals melee damage. That's why the grenades gave me back overshield, because they are melee damage. Plus any meleeing you're doing is going to give you overshield, which means you will have good survivability. We go down this center perk to Amon gains increased damage dealt and damage reduction based on his distance from the enemy. The closer the enemy, the greater the bonus. You're going to be punching people in the face, so this will give you a big boost. We have Harbinger, so kill skill. Amon gains increased melee damage and maximum shield capacity for a duration. So as you're running around punching people over and over again, you're going to get increased melee damage as you do that. Over here we have Catastrophe, so whenever Amon applies shock to an enemy, he gains increased critical hit chance for a duration. And whenever Amon applies burning, increased critical hit damage for a duration. So you kind of want to set people on fire before you meleeing them. However, it's not massively important. If you have weapons that line up with shock and burning, this is also going to help you quite a lot. We have Fists of Stone. Whenever Amon deals melee damage, restore a percentage of the Forge skill cooldown. So those axes that come out, you can keep them up for longer and longer. Electrical Fire. Whenever you burn an enemy, also shocks them. Whenever you shock an enemy, also burns them, which then ties into Catastrophe, obviously. So, you know, pretty good damn build. Over here in the middle, we have Force of Nature. So while Onslaughter is active, gun damage dealt to enemies will prime them for a duration and then will detonate when they die or are damaged by a Forge skill. So when we do that big blast or that big melee, once we have the little numbers that are above the head, it will do huge damage. And for the capstone, we have Stormcutter. So Molten Slam is now a Stormcutter. Press and hold LB to swing a massive Forge sword, launching a Forge wave that deals shock damage to everyone. So again, typically what you want to do is power up your Space Laser with Amp Shield and also as well Amp Rep Kit, and then pop your action class and just go to town. Pop you, charge you up, drop you, give you a melee, give her a big Forge blast thing. Pow, look at that. That was like 7.5 million. It might have even been 75 million. I couldn't see it. It just ran out in too much. But you can see the damage is insane. So we're going to go use it on a boss. Right, let's do this. Let's hit him with one of these first, see if that does anything. Then we can hit him with one of them. And we can charge this up, drop it on top of him, do some damage. Hopefully melee him, but he keeps getting away from me. I can't actually physically melee him. That's so weird because he's got a weird hitbox. But as you can see, insane amounts of damage. Done, finished, dead. That's the build anyway. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for watching. I've been easy. Now you guys have been awesome.